You ready? I have to be
Hmm.
careful because I have like bifocal or progressive, so it makes everything crazy. Sarah. Oh,
Oh, Edie. Um,
yoo-hoo.
he looks so good.
Huh? You're so cute with your binoculars.
I'm trying to read that of the horoscope book. All I need to find is this Libra man. He's got to find a Libran.
If we're two, I two, 14.
Oh my God, you did really good.
Okay, well,
Oh man, we followed
hmm.
the assignment that we gave ourselves.
Hey, it's a fun one. Mallory
Yeah.
just got home, so I can't wait to show her like how
Oh my
special and
gosh.
fancy I
I
look.
think I might need you to film like walking into the room with her.
Mallory, let's go to the grocery store.
We need cat food
We eat cat food and white Wonder Bread.
for the raccoons.
Now I say that, does Wonder Bread make any other flavor?
Ooh, I don't actually, they might make like a whole wheat version, but it's still kind of like Wonder Bread. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love your eyeliner too. I see you laid it on the you got
Yeah,
it on
tried to do it.
and the eyebrows.
Edie doesn't always do her makeup, but
Oh,
okay.
this was
Um,
too fun.
when do you want to
Sarah,
release?
what have we done to ourselves?
We've had so many good costumes. The Alan costume. I've
Uh,
been wanting to dress up like Little Edie ever since I saw the documentary the first time, so this is like a dream come true.
Perfect. I didn't pull it out of my cards, but Big Edie, that works.
Okay.
I wish I had a pot of boiling water and bedside corn, but and a
Well,
stick of margarine. I'm
next
surprised
time.
they called it margarine and didn't call it oleo.
Ugh, yeah.
My grandma always called it. All right.
Okay, here we go. Hi, welcome to a special bonus episode of Above Deck. Today we are discussing the pop culture phenomenon that is gray gardens. Kelly is graciously humoring my recent gray gardens obsession, and now we are dressed like Big Edie and Little Edie.
I'm Big Edie. That's Little Edie. And we did not get early screeners this weekend for Below Deck Down Under, so we will be recording this episode on that episode on Tuesday and this episode today. So don't worry, you'll get your Below Deck fix
Yeah.
because there's plenty to talk about there.
Oh my gosh, yes. Cannot wait.
All right,
Okay,
Sarah, what
so
is Grey Gardens? Fill us
okay.
in.
So here's kind of the general outline for how this will go. I'm just like making this up as I go along. But basically, we'll talk about what is Grey Gardens, who were the Beals, how is this related to Bravo? Like, why are we talking about this? And then we'll
Right.
talk about the documentary, the musical, the Drew Barrymore, Jessica Lange movie, the Sandy Passage spoof of Grey Gardens, and
Yeah.
then some additional learning that I've done with books and podcasts, and then kind of future plans. So
Okay.
that's kind of how it will go. Okay, so what is Grey Gardens and who were the Beals? So
Yeah.
Grey Gardens is the Beals family mansion in East Hampton, New York, on Long Island.
Yes.
So very like prestigious area, very prestigious address. Um, it was home to mother and daughter, both named Edith Bouvier Beale. We call them Big Edie and Little Edie affectionately. Now, the reason people were intrigued, I think, initially with Grey Gardens was because Big Edie was Jackie Bouvier Kennedy Onassis's aunt, and therefore Little Edie was her cousin. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's why people probably went and saw the film initially, and
Yeah.
then they're so intriguing on their own. It's like I don't really even think about their relation to like the Kennedys or the Bouviers. Anyway,
That's like a
so
bonus.
yeah. So and by the way, I've gone down like a serious rabbit hole this week with
Okay.
like researching the Kennedys and researching like where Jackie and like Lee Radziwill like spent their summers, and like you can just go and go and go because these people, this family is so fascinating. A lot of tragedy, a lot of intrigue. It's just super interesting. So I feel like I'm just scratching the surface with all of this. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the house. So the Beals were the third family to own it. It was
Okay.
built in 1895 by the Phillips family, and then the Hill family owned it from 1913 to 1924. And Anna Hill enclosed the garden and had these walls imported from Spain. And there's a scene in the doc where Little Edie references how this garden was like one of the great gardens of America. And
Yeah.
Mrs. Hill was like a famous horticulturalist. Okay. So then in 1924, Phelan Beale bought the estate for his wife, Edith. That's Big Edie.
Okay. That's me.
That's you. Yes.
That's me.
So after living apart for years, Phelan filed for divorce in 1946, and Big Edie and Little Edie lived at Grey Gardens on very little money. There was a little bit of money from the Bouvier estate because Big Edie's father was very wealthy. In fact, her husband was a lawyer and worked in her father's law firm. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and then I think she had a very small stipend from her ex-husband.
Yeah.
So, so they lived on very, very little money, having to maintain that. Well, they didn't maintain it, but having to maintain this huge estate,
Yeah.
um, with a large number of cats and raccoons also living
So
there.
they owned the estate outright, like they didn't pay anything for it?
Well,
Like no
it was
taxes?
always in her name. Like when Phelan Beale bought it for his wife, like he put it in her name. And so I think in the divorce and when later when he died, like it was in her name.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
later little Edie inherits it from her mother.
Okay.
Okay, so who owns it now? It's a fashion designer named Liz Lang. And I think there was one other
Looking
person that owned
this
it
up. Oops.
before her. I think
Oh, fun. Okay.
she bought it in like 2017. Um, that's one thing I want to research is like, can you visit it? Can you drive by? I do remember reading that there was like a home and garden tour one time. I don't know if that's an annual thing. I was like, I would pay so much money to get to visit it.
Would you walk through that house though? Like it has to, like I'm
Yes.
sure they
Well,
have.
it's been fully renovated more than
Yeah,
once since then.
that's true. That's a
So,
good point. It would
yeah,
have to be after they lived there.
exactly. Okay, so Kelly, why are we talking about Grey Gardens?
Yes,
Well,
thank you, Sarah.
all things can be related back to Bravo. So here are
Yes.
two ways that I'll tell you it's related to Bravo. Okay.
Okay.
Carole Radziwill, who was a real housewife of New York City.
Hmm.
She was married to Anthony Radziwill, who was Lee Radziwill's son. So Lee and Jackie were sisters.
Okay.
So Carole, married into this family and was like cousins of the Kennedys and all that. And in Real Housewives of New York City, there's a lot of discussion about the book that Carol wrote called What Remains. And she writes about the deaths of her husband, Anthony Radziwill, who died of cancer. And then she also writes about, like, I think it was 2 weeks or a month before he died, was when the plane crash happened with John Kennedy and Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. And
Oh,
those were her best friends in the world. So very tragic. I just finished reading the book. It was really, really good. And I think in a later season of Roni, there's a lot of discussion like, did Carol have a ghostwriter? And like, I definitely don't think she had a ghostwriter. Carol was a writer, like, she was a journalist with ABC or
yeah.
NBC anyway. So,
Okay.
anyway, it's a really good read. I actually listened to the audiobook because she reads it and I really
Okay.
enjoyed it. So, highly recommend. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was patiently waiting because of my Grey Gardens obsession for there to be
Yeah.
some mention of Grey Gardens in Carol's book. And I was like, oh, it's probably not going to happen. Okay. So in chapter 4, Carol writes about a joke that she had with her BFF, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, about a mansion in Gramercy Park that Carol calls the Grey Gardens of Manhattan. And they used to pretend that they lived there, and one of them would be Big Edie and one would be Little Edie. So that was fun to see that reference. Okay, here's my second way I'm going to tie this into Bravo.
Okay.
Now, this is just a guess, but Craig and Paige from Summer House and Southern Charm, they are always calling each other chicken. And that's what Big Edie calls her kids. She calls the Maisels and Jackie. So, do we think that Craig and Paige are Grey Gardens fans? And that's why they call each other chicken.
mean, I would like to think so. I have a feeling that maybe Paige started that being from the New York area.
Yeah.
Or they just called each other chicken because they didn't like each other really.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would love to know the answer to that. It's not really a question we could probably ask them at this point because, they just went through a fairly contentious breakup.
Yeah,
But I hope that somebody is listening to this and knows the answer to this question. Okay, so
that
let's
would be
talk about
cool.
the documentary. If you guys haven't watched it yet, highly recommend you watch it with subtitles on. The
Yes, that was super helpful.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful. I
Hmm.
watched it on Prime.
Hmm.
I rented it on
Hmm.
Prime. I think it was like $3. So worth
Yeah.
it.
It's also on Max, I believe. Okay, so the doc came out in 1975. It was by Albert and David Maisels. We will call them the Maisels throughout the rest of this
Mhm.
discussion. So Lee Radziwill, who was Jackie's sister, hired the Maisels to make a documentary about the summer of 1972 in Montauk. And I think she and Jackie spent a lot of summers there as children and a lot of famous people visiting. And anyway, Big Edie and Little Edie were part of that documentary, but the Maisels thought that they were the most interesting part. So after their contract, well, it kind of like the I don't know if Lee kind of lost interest in the documentary or the Maisels didn't think it would make a very good documentary. But after their contract kind of ran out, then it was a year later, they went back to the Beales, the Maisels did, and asked them about making a doc just about them in Grey Gardens. And
And of
we
course,
and it happened.
yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of the synopsis. Reclusive upper class women who live in poverty and a derelict mansion surrounded by cats and raccoons. So
I'm gonna put that into Chat GPT and see what happens.
I know exactly. So this became a cult classic. It's on the list of the 100 greatest documentary films of all time. So,
Believe it.
Kelly, this was your first time seeing the doc. What did you think?
Oh, Sarah, where to begin? So it was very clear from the get-go that the Edie's live in their own world. Like they are quite secluded, except from interactions with Jerry
Mm-hmm.
and the gardener
Mm-hmm.
and the
Brooks.
Maisels. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the occasional airplane that flies over.
Mm-hmm.
So I only thing that I really wished about the documentary is that had a little bit more backstory about the Beals from the
Mm-hmm.
Maisels. So, like in the Jessica Lange and Drew Barrymore movie, you see some of their backstory, as real as it is. I don't know, but like you see
Yeah.
some of the storytelling. So it would have been nice to have that going into it, even though
Mm-hmm.
they kind of do that throughout the movie. But
Mm-hmm.
um, the state of that mansion, Sarah, and that was cleaned up. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the scent that is in there,
Mm-hmm.
especially in what is considered Big Edie's room or their
Oh my
kitchen or
gosh.
both, or
Did you take note of the state of her mattress?
yes. I
Why
am
there wasn't a
like
mattress cover on that, I do not know.
why were they allowed to live in there? Why weren't they like
And I think
removed?
that was considered like one of the cleanest rooms because the other rooms were really used as like disposing of garbage or like weren't safe because they had holes in the ceiling where raccoons were coming
Or
out.
black mold on the walls. I mean, it was
Hmm.
horrible.
Yeah.
Um, they're definitely stuck in the past. Like that's kind of,
Yeah.
that Big Edie was a singer with a classically trained voice and how things
Hmm.
were back then. And then little Edie continuously talking about needing to get out of there and back to New York City.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of sad.
Yeah. I
It was
agree.
very
Yeah,
interesting,
you texted
but
that to
very sad.
me yesterday and I was like, yeah, it is. It's like it's sad, it's funny, it's happy. It's like all these different things and I think that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking about the scent, every book and podcast and interview I've listened to from people that have been there, they talk about the scent, but they all say that they do get used to it after a while. Like the Maisels said that they got used to it. I mean, I still wouldn't want to like touch anything in there, like sit on any
Oh
furniture or
no, I
anything.
wouldn't sit on any, even if they put newspaper down, I would just stand in the middle of the room like, I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just kind of listed a lot of my favorite moments of the doc, so let's just talk about our favorite moments. Um, Little Edie, she's so wise. If you really listen to the things that she says, they're applicable to so many different like scenarios and just life in general. I just feel like she's, I can't find the right word, but not a prophet, but like she's, do you know what I mean? Like,
She is. She's like a laureate or something. Like just
yeah,
she just knows so much.
yeah, she's very wise. One of her good quotes from the doc is, "It's very difficult to keep the line between the past and the present." And
Yes. I
that's,
could hear her saying that.
hmm
It's very difficult. No,
yes.
that's more Brooklyn. Anyway, go ahead.
We're gonna talk about the accent.
Oh
So
yeah.
the whole conversation that was had on the little upstairs porch, um, where little Edie says, "I suppose I won't get out of here until she dies or I die." And
Just so like that's just that I guess that's just
it's
what they talk
true.
about when you get to a certain age. Death.
Yeah. Big Edie says, "You can't get any freedom when you're being supported." And Little
That's
Edie says, "I think you're not free when you're not being supported either." And Big Edie just casually says, "You have to kill him off." So basically, she's saying, you got to like marry wealthy and then kill him off.
I mean, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
They're
Um,
not wrong.
Every time I watch the documentary, which I think I'm on my fourth viewing at this point, every time I pick up something new that I didn't see the last time. And this time I noticed when she writes out the check for Brooks, she just
Mm.
writes Brooks and to pay to the order, like no last name. Little Edie's trying to tell her like what his last name is, but she said, "Oh, I didn't think I needed it. Like you just write Brooks, the
The only
gardener."
guy out there? I don't know.
Yeah. Um, Little Edie reading horoscopes is probably my favorite moment where she has
Will
the
you
little
please
horoscope.
reenact that situation, that
Yes.
area for us?
So she's sitting on the front porch. Here, let me take my glasses off. She's sitting on the front porch and she's reading out of this horoscope book and she gets like so close to, to read it. And she reads about this Libra man. And she says, "All I have to do is find this Libra man." And it's right after this moment when we meet Jerry for the first time. Big Edie calls him Little Jerry, which is kind of funny because there was a Seinfeld episode where Kramer gets this pet rooster and he names him Little Jerry. Okay.
Um, this Jerry guy, which will come, he's kind of like a handyman around the house.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a gardener. He's a handyman. He just kind of helps out. I forget who it was that introduced him to the
Yeah.
Beals, but he was very involved in their lives for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was in the doc and the movie. Edie says you can't have your cake and eat it too, and Big Edie disagrees. She said, "I did. I had my cake. I loved it, masticated it, chewed it, and had everything I wanted."
They're
Masticated.
just
No.
like quick with the little, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. It's interesting because Big Edie's in such, well, they're both like living this like delusional life, but she thinks that
Yes.
she had this like glorious marriage and like meanwhile, like look at how she's living, because of choices she made, choices he made, like, um
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
what my friend Carrie, I introduced Grey Gardens to her recently, and she kept saying like, why don't either one of them like get a job? Obviously Big Edie, she was like disabled, towards the end of her life, but why didn't little Edie get a job, you know?
I feel like in the Hollywood movie, we'll say,
Hmm.
didn't little Edie try to go get jobs and her parents were like, no. I feel
mm,
like because or
I
was
mean,
she just trying to stay in New York?
she just
Like I
wanted to
can't
stay in
remember.
New York. She wanted to be a singer, or she wanted to be a
Yeah.
dancer and an actress. And father even wanted her to like get her master's degree so she could work in the law firm that he worked at, and like there was a job like already for her, but she just, she didn't have any interest. She wanted to be taken care of, but she didn't want any strings attached to anybody. So
Well, I mean,
you can't have your
she's a
cake and
very
eat it
smart
too.
woman. As you said, she is wise.
Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, so I also love the scene of little Edie at the beach, laying there. She loves the beach, loves the water,
Love
um,
it.
talking to the Maisels. Um, that scene when Edie puts on the record of her mom and Gould singing When We Are Together from
Yes.
1934,
Oh my
Big
gosh.
Edie's face just lights up. I mean, she really was a trained singer. Like, if she
Yes.
hadn't been, as society expected at that time, she had to get married and like,
Yeah.
um, I think she probably could have been,
Oh,
a
for sure.
star.
Her voice to me, the way she sang and how she rolled her R's and it was very
Hmm.
elegant. It just reminded me of like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella. She could
Hmm.
have easily been a Disney princess.
Absolutely. It was definitely like that time period, like
Yeah.
1920s, 1930s. So, also, I love in both the doc and the movie when Big Edie says, "How can you resist? Edie, soft shoe. How can you resist?" There's so many,
Dance, dance.
there's so many quotes that I want to use in my everyday vocabulary from them. I really love when little Edie cuts her eyes to the Maisels. It's like in The Office.
Yeah,
Now, this type of documentary was revolutionary for the time period, and some people say that it was a precursor to reality television.
absolutely. That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
Hmm.
this is almost an S show. Like this is, you
Hmm.
know, um, what a life though. Like, um, one of my favorite parts was little Edie just singing her heart out,
Hmm.
probably singing to the Maisels because she loved one of them.
Hmm.
I think it was
I
David who
think it
was
was
running the
David.
camera. She was in love with him.
Hmm.
Um, but her mom's Big Edie told her to stop, and she's like, I will have to start drinking. I can't take it. You'll turn your mother into a drunkard.
Yeah,
It's just
so
like,
funny. They
quit
love to
singing.
like egg each other
Oh
on,
my
and like
gosh.
they knew exactly how to get into each other, like under each other's skin, and
Yes.
yeah. So funny. And it's funny because the way Edie did it in this scene was like by just singing. Well, Big Edie said she was singing badly. I didn't think it was that bad. Um, and also by like leaving the room and like not coming back right away. She has to like call her. And the way
You
um Big Edie irritates little Edie is like she shows a lot of affection to Jerry and like other people.
praises her brothers.
Mm, yes.
The
Oh, I
priest
had the
said,
perfect sons. Yeah.
the priest said I'd have to have a firm hand with her.
She says that over and over again. I'm like,
Yes.
your daughter is 55 years old. Like, what are you talking about? You need a firm hand at this point. She's waiting on you hand and foot.
Right, right.
Um, I really love the scene of Big Edie and Jerry eating the bedside corn. They had the hot plate that they cooked on. I think the kitchen was a disaster, so like it couldn't be used.
The hot plate on the bed
Right.
with boiling water while she's just sitting there with a fork.
And
I
kittens
think that's my
everywhere.
favorite thing about women from that era. And
Hmm.
even like Edie's, like they cook things with forks, like table forks, tablespoons. Like they don't
Yeah.
use the fun like ladles and things. Like, grandma's got the little
Yeah.
soup spoon out there measuring things out. Just I don't know
That's
why
funny
that's
that you
funny to me.
say that because when my grandmother passed away, my mom's mom, the thing I wanted the most from her house were the two spoons that she used every day, just like to stir stuff. And the edge of the spoons were um, like
Oh,
worn, like they were
oh,
silver and they were worn
yeah,
or silver plated and they were completely
yeah.
worn from like the bottom of the pan. So I still have those and I treasure them.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So funny. I think my cousin Katie also took one. So,
oh, love that.
Okay, the first time I saw it, the scene of Edie going up to the attic to feed Buster the raccoon was shocking to me.
Dumps out the whole thing of bread, dumps out the
Yeah,
whole
all
thing of
that cat
cat
food.
food.
She says,
But
"Ever."
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Somebody moved her book
Oh, yes. Yeah, and she thinks it's Jerry. She thinks Jerry's been like taking things out of the house.
through the window to
Yeah.
somebody downstairs. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. It's funny because her mom was always asking her to like watch people that were in the house, like make sure.
Mm.
And then, but her mom was like bringing these people in the house. It was kind of it was an odd dynamic. Um, but Edie says everything is in the attic. Sloths, otters, badgers, opossums, and raccoons.
Sleuths.
Otters in the attic? Okay. All
I
right.
mean, you never know. Like stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah, you
So,
never know with that house, I guess.
um, I guess it was another time when little Edie was singing
Uh-huh.
and or complaining about something, one or the other. That's about what
Yeah.
the whole movie was. And Big Edie yelling at her, "Will you shut up? It's a goddamn beautiful day."
That's another one I want to say often. Like, will you shut up? It's a goddamn beautiful day. So good, so quotable.
Yes.
So Edie thought that Jerry wanted to sleep with her. Now, Jerry was a teenager. He was 16, 18 years old, like when he came to be at Grey
Yeah.
Gardens, and Edie's in her 50s. Also, they don't know this, but Jerry is gay, which I found out from reading his book. So
Oh,
anyway,
do you
I just
think?
think it's so funny. She thinks every man wants to marry her and sleep with her.
I mean,
He wants to
why
seal
not?
the deal. Hmm.
I mean, you got to steal it. Not steal it, seal it. Um, I thought it was weird. This Jerry guy has when he was outside, the mom, Big Edie wanted little Edie watching him.
Hmm.
But when he came in the house, he was like straight in their room, like,
Laying on the bed, and Big Edie's like, "Oh, Jerry, just
yeah. And
fawning all over him."
before I knew who he really was, I was kind of like, this guy is waiting for these old ladies to die so he could take the house.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
all
You're
I
like,
could
who
think.
is this teenager who's like hanging out? It's
Right.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
odd.
I read his book, so we're going to talk about that, and I'll tell you everything you want to know about Jerry.
Awesome.
Okay. So the first time Big Edie calls, "Oh, Edie, yoo-hoo," it's cute, but that would get so old, like waiting on her hand and foot for all those years. "Oh, Edie, oh, Edie,"
Yes, mother. I'd be like, yes,
with a
mother. What
pillow.
do you let me fluff that for you.
What did you think of Big Edie's birthday party?
Okay. So that room that they were in looked beautiful. I love just very
Hmm.
bright,
The
which was
dining
like
room,
the
yeah, they
brightest.
obviously don't use that room much.
Yeah, it was rather clean. However, they did not put newspaper down for people to sit on. So Jack and Lois, whoever they may be, had to sit on the yucky chairs. I don't know who they are. I thought they looked like they were being held hostage to be there.
It was an odd scene. I feel like it was a little bit staged
Yeah.
because I've read Lois's book, and like Lois was very good friends with them and like actually
Okay.
lived at Grey Gardens for 13 months, like a little bit after this. But
Okay.
I feel like they were awkward being on film maybe or something.
Yeah.
And I think that Lois's friendship with the Beals was not portrayed the way it really was in the documentary because I think the Maisels thought it would be too confusing, like, because it really was about this mother and daughter. And so, like, to have too many of these, like, tertiary characters. And in
Yeah.
fact, when you watch the Drew Barrymore, Jessica Lange movie, like, Jerry is not in it.
Yeah, you're
I can't
right.
remember if Brooks is in it or not, but a lot of those people are not in it, but they did have these other people in their lives.
Okay.
Um, I
So
forget
they're
who
just
Jack.
friends of the family.
Yeah, Jack, I think, was a longtime friend of the family. Lois, longtime friend of the family.
Okay.
But I agree, they did look like they were held hostage. I just
Yeah.
listened to a podcast this morning of the film editor that worked with the Maisels, and she said when Edie is cleaning off those chairs and like putting newspaper down, she was flicking cat poop off the chairs. I know. So
Okay.
crazy. I liked when they were talking about pe somebody's eye problems, and Edie said that somebody's eyes just dried up and disappeared.
Hate when that happens.
I know. Now
It's like an
something else to
apple.
be worried
Just
about. Um, One of the most iconic scenes, and I like sending this GIF to people in text messages, is little Edie dancing to the VMI marching song with the American flag. It's just iconic.
and Drew Barrymore did an excellent job of recreating that scene in the
Yeah,
movie.
she
I
did.
thought Drew Barrymore was fantastic.
Oh,
Seeing that one first and then
hmm.
coming and watching the documentary, I was like, oh wow, like that is not an exaggeration at all at who those
Yeah,
people
it's
are.
really pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So Jerry brings them a washing machine from the estate that he's the gardener at, and Edie says, that cements the deal. And she thinks that Jerry's after her or whatever, and he's gonna move
Of
in.
course.
Now, Jerry did stay there for many nights. Like a lot of nights he did sleep over there and he like looked out for them and took care of them.
And
So made
also
sure
it was
that they
probably
had,
a safe place for him
yeah,
to be who he is,
yeah,
and
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So overall, it seems like they did really love each other, the mother and daughter, but they really drove each other crazy, didn't they?
My gosh, the fact that Big Edie saying she needs professional music because she couldn't handle little Edie singing anymore, and
Yeah,
then Big Edie saying Edie couldn't get married because then she would be left alone.
yeah. Very codependent relationship.
I would go batshit crazy. Um, I did love Edie and her reading, not having glasses, but using binoculars and the magnifying glass to read,
The bathroom
newspaper,
scale outside.
the binoculars to read the bathroom scale. Oh gosh. Yeah, it was
Oh, 145.
yeah. Well, verklempt. Almost verklempt.
Or yeah, were they binoculars or were they like opera glasses? I wasn't sure, but
Ooh, that's a good. I think they were opera glasses.
yeah, or
That makes it
funny.
even better.
Yeah, she was like using it on the porch to like look for planes and look at the ocean and stuff. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
So funny. So many good props.
Hmm.
Um, Another, I don't remember what the context of this is, but Big Edie says, "You've had enough fun." And Edie said, "I've never had a minute's fun, not a minute." Ah.
Those two. Yeah.
And then I think
Um,
she's outside and she's talking to the Maisels and she says, "I'm going to check on Mother and the cats. She's a lot of fun. I hope she doesn't die."
I mean, like I feel like when you get to a certain age, that's all you talk about.
Yeah.
And especially like if you and they sound like they're pretty good Catholic women, so they probably laid it on pretty thick, you know. Well, that's
Yeah.
fine, but I just hope I don't die in the meantime, like
Yeah.
um so little Edie tells Big Edie that her room smells really bad, which is pretty impressive. Um, and Big Edie responds, I love that smell. I thrive on it.
Ugh,
Ugh.
gross. Okay.
No, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
The smell of the cats.
Yeah,
A quote I really like of Big Edie is she says, I don't, and I don't know if this is in the doc or if this is in like, I've started watching like an extended, like deleted scenes type doc. She
oh
says, I
gosh.
don't like delicate women. I hate them. They can't do anything at all.
Oh, okay.
And I know exactly what she means. Like, I think we've met women that are like, oh, I can't carry my suitcase myself, and I can't, do this or do that. It's just like, come on, just do
Gag.
it. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, who
Um,
does that?
Little Edie says it's better not to have a husband. Aren't men terrible? Absolutely terrible.
Just the way she's absolutely terrible. Like, just like she
Mm-hmm.
drags it out. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love little Edie. I want to be her best friend.
I know. She's the best. And I think it's at the very beginning of the doc when she says, I think this is the best costume for today, when she's telling the Maisels about her outfit. And she always like used safety pins and pinned stuff and wore scarves as this and belts as bracelets. And um, interesting head coverings. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know that we talked about it, but she had alopecia, so she lost all of her hair, so that's why she always wears the head coverings.
Okay. There is a part in the documentary where you could see some of her hair, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
very, very short, but it's
Hmm.
white.
Okay, I did not notice that.
It's toward
See,
the
have to
end.
watch it again.
When she had like that really intricate head wrap on.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it's out on the beach or in the garden, but she says the relatives didn't know they were dealing with a staunch character.
Staunch.
Yes,
Staunch.
exactly.
Yeah. What a
I liked
mess.
when Edie was complaining about missing her 25th class reunion, and her mom says that Edie didn't go because she didn't want her classmates to know how old she was. And
Hold on.
I know, exactly. And Big Edie says, everything's good that you didn't do, but at the time you didn't want it. I mean, it's like the grass is always greener, you know?
That's right. That's right. Well, the number of men that she was supposed to be betrothed to, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it was like,
wonder how much of that was true, you know, like,
like so and he was a millionaire, and so and he was a
hmm
millionaire. It was
Yeah,
like three
J.
or four
Paul
men.
Getty and Vanderbilt and
No, I'm sure,
yeah, I mean that was definitely the group that they ran in. Edie says the hallmark of aristocracy is responsibility. So she does feel this like big responsibility for, taking care of her mother. But you know what, Kelly, thank goodness we don't have to worry about that.
That's right. Screw the aristocracy. No, wait, what?
We just do it because we have to.
We just no choice.
Yeah. It sounds like Edie did not like Gold, who was the accompanist and her mother's companion. I
Yeah.
think maybe she resented him for leaving because that kind of forced her to come home and take care of her mom. Um,
He
Also, I
also
don't
gave
think,
her a lot of attention. He gave her mom a lot of attention and
oh,
she
yeah,
wasn't getting it.
right. Little Edie didn't like any of these men that came around. Anytime there was a third person, so like Tom Logan is someone that was referenced a
Yeah.
lot, and apparently he was just this like drifter that lived there for like 10 years. I think he did some cooking. They talk about him making some good salads. Um,
Yeah.
and then even her father, like, because I think Big Edie at one point says, Edie said if I bring her father back here, she'll leave, or like it's
Yeah.
like she
Yeah.
didn't want a third person there. So Gold,
Huh.
little Jerry, it's like, you know, anything to get in between like her and her mother. It's kind of like the three is a crowd thing when you
Yeah.
put three women together. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so we have a question from a listener, Michelle. Is there
Yes.
ever a situation where it would be appropriate to feed attic raccoons?
That is a fair question. My neighbor next door would probably answer that for you as yes.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, before
Good.
they moved, the
Okay.
people who lived there. Anyway,
Gotcha. In general, I
I'm,
think no, you should not be feeding wild animals, but I think
but I feel
Buster
like,
was.
especially Wonder Bread, like that is not bread, and
No, I
that'll
mean
make
that's
their
what we always
tummies
feed
hurt.
ducks and stuff too. It can't be good for them.
No, no. Oh, Sarah, that was just like, I think my face was kind of like this the whole time. Like,
Hmm.
what are we watching? But I made it through.
You made it through.
It started as quickly as, and then it ended just as quickly. Like there's no like beating around the bush. They jump right
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
they just
yeah.
end
You're
it.
right. That thank goodness they put in the like newspaper clippings and stuff about
Yes,
like
that
the
was helpful.
raid and being Jackie's relatives. I think that was a really helpful way to give us like some context of like
Yeah.
why do we care about these people? Okay,
Yeah.
so in 2006 there was a Broadway show that came out, started off Broadway and then moved to Broadway, and it was based on the documentary. It was a musical. It was
Okay.
nominated for 10 Tony Awards and it won
Wow.
3, and it did
Wow.
tour nationally and internationally. I really hope that there's a revival because I would love to see this. Um, there's
That would be so
also
cool.
there's also a documentary that I haven't seen. It's called Grey Gardens from East Hampton to Broadway about the making of the musical. So I would
Oh,
love to
fun.
see that. Um, and we're gonna get into Jerry more in a few minutes, but I think it was like around the time they were making Grey Gardens, the Broadway musical, that they found Jerry. Like the Maisels had been looking for him for years and years, and he
Oh,
was driving a cab in New York City, and somehow they found him, and he got to go and watch some of the like rehearsals of Grey
oh,
Gardens, and
that's
like because
neat.
he got to see himself portrayed on stage, so that was
Oh,
cool.
that's really neat.
So
Oh.
somebody please bring back Grey Gardens. I would really love to see it. Okay, and then we talked a little bit about the 2009 movie with Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange. What did you think about their portrayals of the characters?
I mean, it was scarily accurate.
Hmm.
I mean, Jessica Lange with the glasses and
The
the
crooked magnifying glasses.
just it was just I really liked it. I don't know. It's the whole story is just so sad though. It
Yeah.
just breaks my heart. But I thought they did a very good job. What'd you
There's
think?
a couple references to Grey Gardens in Gilmore Girls, and I think
Hmm.
Lorelai and Roy are watching the movie, the documentary, and they turn to each other and they say they were really happy, weren't they? And they were like, yeah, they were. They really were happy. They lived life on their own terms, you know.
Well, that's true. They were miserable with each other.
Yeah, but I think they were also happy.
Yeah,
So
they were doing their own thing.
the raid was mentioned several times in the doc, and this was portrayed in the movie when the Suffolk County Health Commission forced them to get the house up to code or be evicted. And so Jackie and Lee donated the money to make the house habitable. And also
Okay.
Jerry and others helped clean up everything. And it all had to be done in like, I think 10 days or 2 weeks. Like I had a very short time to do all that.
Yeah.
So think about this. Grey
Okay.
Gardens, the doc, was filmed after the big cleanup. After.
Ew, Sarah, it's so gross.
I know.
So gross.
But they couldn't afford to pay to have their trash taken away, I guess. So,
And that's what they're saying. That's what accumulated. That's why the,
yeah. Yeah, I think in the movie, Edie says things just accumulate after Labor Day because oh, maybe it's in reference to like the car, the old junky car that's like sitting out there. She
yeah,
says things
yeah.
just accumulate after Labor Day. That's going to be my new motto when Bill complains about like my stuff being scattered about.
Let me know how
Um,
that goes. Will you record that for me?
yeah, I'll let you know. Okay, so that scene at the end of the movie where little Edie throws the roses, like they stand up and they're cheering for the film. That really did happen at the New York film premiere. Like somebody gave her roses and she was up there like throwing them. So that was sweet. Okay, let's
She
talk
finally
about
got to be famous.
yes, let's talk about the accent. I Googled what was like the Kennedy accent? What is that,
Yeah.
It's called Long Island Lockjaw, and it
Okay.
refers to a specific speech pattern associated with the affluent North Shore of Long Island. So it has a name.
Okay. So it's not like Brooklyn. It's
It's not
not like
like
the A.
Queens. Yeah.
It's
It's
more
very
of the
specific, and it's very specific
staunch.
parts of Long Island because like I have
Yeah.
friends from Long Island. They don't talk like this. So it's like that specific North Shore
Yeah.
area.
Oh, that's so interesting. You do it very well, Sarah.
Oh, thanks. Well, I've been practicing.
In the
Just have to
shower.
find this Libra man. Okay, so I started listening to this podcast. It's called Grey Gardens. It's hosted by Fern Bernstein, and she
Okay.
interviews people that knew the Edie's and people involved in making of the film. And so far, I've listened to 2 episodes, and there's one where she interviews the film editor, Susan Frumke, and
Okay.
she ran Maisel's Films in New York City for like 2 decades. I learned
Oh.
a lot from this one episode. So she
Yeah.
said, it was first screened at the New York Film Festival, which back in that time, this is like before Sundance and before, like, there were only a couple film festivals.
Yeah,
And
before
so,
Tribeca.
yeah, and it was a big deal to get a documentary, I guess, into this. And so,
Oh,
very
wow.
prestigious. It was shown on the second night, which was like a very coveted spot. Yoko Ono and John Lennon were there.
Wow.
And after that, it ran for 10 weeks at the Paris Theater in New York City.
Huh.
And in fact, in the Drew Barrymore movie, they show them like going into the Paris Theater, like that was the first place it was screened, but that wasn't the case. It was first shown at the film festival at Lincoln Center. And then when it had its
Okay.
big run at the Paris Theater, that's when it was
Okay.
there. Anyway, so
Wow.
that's neither here nor there, but it's just something I realized. Okay, so the Paris Theater is on 59th Street near Fifth Avenue, like right across from the plaza. And they had a party at the plaza after the opening. Mick Jagger was there. I think Mick Jagger he's in the documentary that summer about Lee Radziwill's, summer in
Yeah.
1972 in Montauk. So he was definitely hanging out with that crowd, like
What a life.
Truman
Could you
Capote
imagine?
and Andy Warhol, like kind of that crowd.
Wow.
Um, so Edie did get to go to that party and she did get to stay at the plaza that when they had the opening
Her.
at the Paris Theater.
Yeah.
So this was interesting. The Maisels had psychiatrists, friends of theirs, watch the film to try to figure out what exactly was going on in that house. And they said was that there was just a major triangle always happening.
Yeah.
And if Edie left the room, Big Edie would kind of flirt with the Maisels and like vice versa. And anytime Edie left Big Edie, she's calling her right back in, like, very controlling. And Susan felt strongly that she doesn't like when people say, like, what kind of mental illness, did they have? Or
Yeah.
she feels strongly that there was not mental illness, at least with little Edie. And
Okay.
she said she
Okay.
was smart. She knew exactly what she was doing. And the only thing was that, like, later in her life, and we see this, she thought every man was trying to marry her or sleep with her.
Is
And
that not a form of mental illness?
yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe
I
it
think it's
wasn't
just
back then because a lot of
delusion.
things have changed and so
Yeah.
that's very interesting. That is so, Sarah, you have really gone down. Okay, so we've watched the documentary, you watched the
Yeah.
extra scenes, you watched the Drew Barrymore, Jessica Lange
I've
movie,
read 3 books.
you've read 3 books, the podcast, you've worked on your accent, you've talked about the musical,
Hmm.
and now you're gonna
Yeah.
you talk about a wormhole. Like you
I
went,
know. And I feel like I
we're gonna
have
have to,
just scratched the surface. We've had a couple messages from listeners saying they're so excited that we're talking about Grey Gardens. Like they also are obsessed with Grey Gardens. So I feel like I have found my tiny little sliver of the internet, which is like Bravo and Grey Gardens. And I told one of our listeners, I said, I haven't been this excited about a topic or a group or whatever or people since New Kids on the Block in like 5th grade. It's like, can't get enough. Okay. So I read the book called My Life at Grey Gardens, 13 Months and Beyond by Lois Wright. Lois was the lifelong friend who
okay,
you can see as the party guest and gives Big Edie that little index card box for her birthday.
yeah,
So she used her journals from that time period, 1975 to 1977. So this is the time period when the documentary was like coming out and premiering and like
okay.
after. So you learn a lot about what was going on as the film was being released and promoted. There's a lot of drama around if Edie would go to the premiere, who would take care of her mother, if Lois could come, or if she needed to stay there and take care of Big Edie. And in the end, I think Lois ended up staying, and then Brooks, the gardener, slept in the upstairs hallway, which was like a lot of drama because he was a drunk. And anyway, so
Yeah,
um,
okay.
she talks a lot about Big Edie's death in 1977. And
Mm.
at her funeral, Jerry actually was in charge of it, but he went and got a record player and played the When We Are Together song like at the funeral. I thought that
Oh,
was really beautiful.
oh,
Um,
that's very sweet.
so here's Lois's book.
Okay,
And
My Life at Grey Gardens.
there's a couple parts that have really stuck with me. So I just wanted to read you a couple excerpts.
Okay,
Okay.
get your
Are you,
magnifying glass out.
yeah, let me get my magnifying glass out. Okay. Okay, so this is Monday, July 21st, 1975. At
Okay.
10 p.m., my usual time to retire, I went upstairs and into my room. I didn't care too much for the appearance of my floor. I had wet mopped it, but the floor really needed scraping, as it hadn't been cleaned properly in years and years, and the cats had been in there before I arrived. I never looked at the floor until it was time to spread the newspapers, a procedure, almost a ritual, that I followed every evening. First, I picked up a stack of newspapers, walked over to where I would place my stretcher, and then carefully lay them on the floor. I was generous, as I didn't want my large sheet folded lengthways or blanket to touch anything except for the papers. About the time I
Ooh.
got settled, the fleas were up and under the newspapers and hopping up and down, sounding like Mexican jumping beans.
Oh my God, Sarah.
If you got up in the
Oh,
night and woke the fleas and excited them, you had to flick them off, trying to return inside the sheet before more landed. I informed my body not to feel the need to go down the hall to the bathroom as this gathered more fleas. Isn't this
God.
crazy?
Why would you
Okay,
stay there?
I
Like,
know. Well, I think Lois was kind of a drifter and kind of homeless too. I think she
okay.
was an odd sort of bird, but it's like the Beals attracted these other kind of lost souls. Do you know what I
What do
mean?
they say? Birds of a feather?
Birds of a feather flock together for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now let me go to
Wow.
page 93. Okay. This is a library book. It's overdue. I need to like get this back. And I've also marked it up. I hope they don't mind. Maybe I should just
You
buy
didn't
it
do it. It
from them.
was the other person that has
That's
borrowed it
right.
in 20 years.
Okay, this is Friday, That's right. Friday, January 30th, 1976. At least 15 kittens have been born here in the last couple days, all inbred for many generations. They have strange feet, an extra toe, or a small paw. The cats are fascinating because of the inbreeding, and due to this, I feel there is something of Pharaoh's Egypt in them. Perhaps they can communicate with the great cats of old Egypt and somehow are bewitched. Their eyes are different than house cats, and they certainly mate in an unusual way. They are quiet about it. The Beals believe they are quite valuable, and I am inclined to agree with them, but we avoid discussing magic. Um, so later she talks about how many of the kittens died like very early because of the inbreeding, and
Yeah.
Big Edie kept one of Pinky's dead kittens under a tissue on her bed until it turned to dust. I found that so disturbing.
Oh my God, Sarah.
I know. I know. I have to find that. I couldn't find what page that was on, but that was like that description really stuck with me too. Okay, so
Oh my
Lois
God.
talks a lot about Brooks, who was the gardener, a cook,
Yeah.
maintenance man, kind of like a jack of all trades who had a severe drinking problem. But it's like they couldn't
Yikes.
get on without all these helpers. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because they
right.
didn't leave. Like, I think it was a big deal when Edie left to go to the premiere, you know?
Oh, I'm
Like,
sure it sounds like it was a all hands on deck kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, they had to have groceries delivered. They had to have, they had all these maintenance people, but like, look at the state of the house. I mean, just crazy. So there are several references to someone dying in the house. Now, the person that died in the house was Tom Logan, who lived with the Beals for 9 or 10 years, and maybe he and Big Edie were lovers, not sure. So he died of pneumonia in the kitchen. I think that's the other reason, like, they never used the kitchen is because somebody died in there. And Little Edie would blame mysterious happenings in the house to Tom Logan's ghost. So that was interesting.
That took a
Um,
turn.
Lo Lois was a palm reader, so she would like go to fancy East Hampton parties and like read people's palms, and that's how she made a little bit of money. And then she'd give a little bit of money to the Beals since she was living with them.
Yeah.
And she talks a lot about her artwork, and she's this artist, and how little Edie like really loved her paintings. So I was really envisioning that like she's this great artist. So I had to look up her art, and I just want to show you a picture of what her artwork looks like.
Oh dear.
Get your professional opinion here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, here's one.
Ah, yes. Woman with cats.
I think that's little Edie.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's sorry, there's a glare.
It's okay.
Here's Lois with a self-portrait.
Ah, yes. Okay.
So if you could
Okay.
just oh, here's this is another one. If you could describe her art, what would you say?
Mm, I'd say it's comparable to the great artists of fifth grades around the United States
Yeah.
and the world.
Yeah.
Don't
So,
you think? Oh,
yeah. I mean, it definitely looks like, I don't know. Yeah. Something you see on the or a middle school wall
yeah.
in a
Even,
hallway.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, I kind of love it and I kind of would like love to have a print. Okay, I know we're getting kind of long, but we're almost done. Okay, so then I read the book The Marble Faun of Grey Gardens by Jerry, and
Okay, that's right.
I listened to the audiobook. I highly recommend. I thought it was so good. So we already kind of talked about who Jerry was. So at age 16, he ran away from home. I think he's either from Queens or Brooklyn. And he worked as a gardener for the petroleum magnate J. Paul Getty in East Hampton. So that's how he ended up there. And he met the Beals in 1974. And Big Edie was really like a mother figure to him. He helped out around the house. He did some gardening. Little Edie was always worried, that he would live there forever and like change the dynamic like Tom Logan did. And Edie refers to him as the Marble Faun, which is a reference to a Nathaniel Hawthorne book. I don't know it. Do you know it? Edie says in the extended doc that she always felt like something tragic would happen to Jerry, and it does. Like he ends up making a lot of money later in life, but then was a drug addict and like lost it
Oh,
all. This was like, the 80s and 90s in New York City and a lot of sleeping around with different people. Um, Especially in the gay male community, and
yeah.
all his friends started dying of AIDS. He did contract HIV, but to my knowledge, he is still alive and I think
Oh, wow.
doing okay. So
Yeah.
he was driving, I mentioned this before, but he was driving a taxi cab and somebody said something about Grey Gardens, one of his passengers, and he said, "Oh, I'm the Marble Faun." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Albert Maysles has been looking for you for years." And so
Oh
like
my
put him in
gosh.
touch, and then that's when they were able to reconnect, and I'm sure that's when this book kind of like came out. But I thought his book was really good. He did
Yeah.
talk about how bad the fleas were in the house and how you really couldn't wear shorts. You had to wear pants, and like the Maisels, you can see them. They put flea collars around their ankles like when they're when they're filming.
Well, I
Um
saw them putting, it looked like a powder. I'm guessing it was probably like deep powder.
yeah, probably.
Oh,
Yeah. But he
interesting.
said that when Edie was filming with the Maisel, she would wear, her creative shorts and outfits, but like normally she wouldn't because the fleas were, so bad that you had to wear pants like in the house. Okay, did you watch Sandy Passage?
You didn't get a chance to,
Okay.
but it
Okay.
looks amazing.
It's
And I've
really
seen
funny. So
clips of
it's
it.
Fred Armisen and Bill Hader. It's a spoof of Grey Gardens. It's written by Seth Meyers and Lorne Michaels was the executive producer. It's on YouTube. They call themselves Big Vivi and Little Vivi, and Bill Hader has like sweatpants on his head. He says it has a built-in scarf, and I won't get too far into it since you haven't watched it, but there's one really funny scene where Bill Hader is little Vivi, and
Huh?
he's feeding the cats, and he like puts cat food into a bowl, and then he puts cornflakes on top of it, and then he puts a piece of bologna on top of that, and there's another cat on top of the refrigerator. And he says, "Do you want some?" And he just like throws a piece of bologna and it sticks to the fridge door. Um, Also, you know how Big Edie like sits up on the landing and just like calls down? They do that kind of thing. And I was thinking, I have the perfect landing in my house to like call down to people, so I might have to do that.
Feel sorry for Bill.
Ah, I know.
So to cut out for
So
Ripley.
in this spoof, they talk about how like the grocery boys and Jerry, well, they call him Barry,
Yeah.
keep disappearing, and so the filmmakers think that the Vivies are killing people, and it like turns into this whole like horror movie, and they're keeping people in the basement. But anyway, it takes a serious turn. Okay, so why do we find the Beals so compelling? What is it for
Yeah.
you?
But they grew up in this family that was idolized
Hmm.
by not only the nation, but probably the world, right? You
Hmm.
know, the Kennedys and everything. So they had a one step away from the Kennedy family. And the fact that they are so different from the Kennedys
Hmm.
and so different from Jackie that it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Radziwill, her sister, her second husband was a Polish prince. So her children are prince and princesses. Like Carole Radziwill became a princess when she married into that family. So I mean,
Wow.
it is
That is just
shocking.
so interesting to me. It's because
Hmm.
everybody else, we're all vanilla, right? Like we just,
Yeah,
but
that's
then
right.
there's this group of people who have a little bit more excitement in their backstories, and that's just so neat to me.
Yeah. But I really think they were fashion icons. I mean, hence our outfits right now.
Absolutely.
And they were survivors and they like did what they wanted to do. They were happy. They were eccentric, bold, wise, complicated,
Yeah.
likely suffering some kind of disorder. Um,
Yeah.
I was wondering, do we think maybe Edie was on the spectrum? Like she's some kind of fashion forward comedic savant or something.
Yeah.
She
Well,
reminded
you
me of
never know. I
Rain
mean,
Man a little bit or something.
yeah. I mean, she was very well, like very well spoken. And I know that's
Yeah.
her upbringing too, but
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't seem to have a TV in the house. They still listened to the radio.
Hmm.
There weren't a lot of books or things. I don't know. It's just like, how do you keep up on that?
Well, the books kept ending up in the attic, and
Well, yeah, that's
Jerry was
true.
taking
Because
them out a
Jerry was
window.
taking them all, selling them to the
Um,
people downstairs.
my friend Carrie thinks that Big Edie was a narcissist. Um, I feel like I did feel that way after watching like Jessica Lange's portrayal of her. It's
Yeah.
like she's
Me,
always
me, me,
trying to
me, me.
get Edie like back in and not let her have her own life, and or kind of gaslighting her in a way because she'd be like, "Well, you had your chance, you didn't take it," but like she
Hmm.
forced her to come. Like I don't know.
No, I
Um,
do too. I think it's very their relationship was not healthy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's some other books and things I want to read and watch. Okay, so there's a book called Edith Bouvier Beale of Grey Gardens: A Life in Pictures by Peter Beard. Grey Gardens by Dan Murphy. My friend Scotty has this book. It's full of illustrations, photos, film stills, transcripts, production notes, and even has a CD that has recordings of the Beals. So I really want to try to
Oh,
get my
wow.
hands on that. I want to watch That Summer, Lee Radziwill's 2017 short film,
Hmm.
which shows a lot of unseen Grey Gardens like footage. And then
Wow.
there's a 2011 film called The Marble Faun of Grey Gardens. I don't know how to watch that, but I'm going to figure that out. And then of course I would love to like go see Grey Gardens, even if it's just like from the road. And then
Yeah.
I would have to go to the cemeteries where people are buried and like pay my respects. At Cedar Lawn Cemetery in East Hampton, Gold is buried there. Doris Francisco, who we didn't talk about, but she took care of Big Edie later in her life. Tom
Okay.
Logan. And then Big Edie is buried in the Bouvier family plot at the Most Holy Trinity Catholic Cemetery in East Hampton.
Wow.
And I guess little Edie did not want to be buried there. She didn't want to be buried with her mom, which is interesting. She's at Locust Valley Cemetery on Long Island.
So when did little Edie pass away?
She also lived into her 80s.
Okay.
So I think, was it, let me look that up real quick.
Oh, here.
Did-
January 14th, 2002, and she was 84.
Yeah. So they both lived into their 80s.
Yeah.
Just think about how they didn't have like health care. Like, I
I
mean, I
mean,
think they did have a little bit. Like, I think doctors did come in, but I don't know. They weren't doing the maintenance on themselves either.
just scary.
Yeah.
Scary.
So I really want to dress up on July 4th with Edie's July 4th outfit with the flag and the white pumps, or the orange and black bathing suit with the horoscope book, like that's,
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a good one. That would be a good one.
yeah. Well, any other like final thoughts about Grey Gardens? Are you gonna watch or read or like go down any more rabbit holes with this, or you think
Yeah, I
you've had
probably
your
will
fill?
now that I've tapped, put my toes in the water. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. They're just a curious family. I just want to know
Mm-hmm.
more. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll see what I can get myself into.
Well, feel free to send me anything you find out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for humoring me. This was really a treat.
Absolutely.
That's it for this week's episode of Above Deck. Thank you to our team at Herd at Media, especially our producer Joss. Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to tell a friend, and please rate and review us 5 stars only.
Please follow us on Instagram at Above Deck Pod, and you can email us at abovedeckpod@gmail.com. And you can watch our episodes on the Herdat Entertainment YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Kelly Busby.
And I'm Sarah Goldman. We'll see you later this week for our regular Above Deck episode. Bye.
Bye.